Pope Francis says it is both foolish and myopic. That means short-sighted, I believe. Foolish and myopic for companies to force people to work into their golden years while depriving young people of the dignity of a job. Liz McDonald, Judge Napolitano, both with us this morning. That is a political statement, isn't it?
It is, but I look at it differently. I think it's a metaphor for himself. I think he's dropping hints.
About retiring?
Yes.
Like the last pope?
Yes, and I think if Benedict lives for another year, you'll have 3 popes on the planet at the same time, which will be a first in the history of the world. He has said things like, the Pope will be back in Ireland. The Pope's successor may view this differently than the Pope views it. He's dropped all kinds of hints about wanting to return as a simple parish priest in the slums of Buenos Aires to conclude his time on earth.
Okay, well, you make a very interesting point there.
As soon as I saw this, I thought, I know Liz is going to talk about the economy and labor unions and young people and all that, which is what everybody thought he was talking about, but I just saw it through a different frame when he said it.
He most certainly did.
That's why you have me here, Vaughn.
I have written a question down here. You said the next major prediction and hidden truth about Pope Francis. Can I ask that?
Oh,
sure.
Wow.
It's in the book too, though.
They can get it. Well, give me a little hint about it.
Yeah.
Will you give us a little bit?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they can read the whole story. I mean, you can't tell all the...
Well, so first of all, when you say who are the saboteurs,
Yes.
For some reason Pope Francis has decided that he's going to be among those. He's been critical
of the president.
And on more than one occasion. It's interesting that he claimed recently that Donald Trump is not pro-life, but there's several conservative Catholic bishops that are getting ready to make a public statement in defense of Donald Trump and against the Pope, saying he is in fact pro-life, right? In fact, their position is going to be he's more pro-life than you are, and that has to do with some of the papers that the Pope has written recently and some of the people he's appointed that actually are supporters of abortion, right, to the church. So that's their little in-squabble that they're having there. But remember, Chris Putnam and I, a year in advance, we predicted that Pope Benedict was going to step down, citing health reasons, and we said we think it's going to happen in April of 2012. The archives of your show in 2011, we said that.
That's right. It's proof.
Absolutely.
Of course, 2012 came and went. It didn't look like he was stepping down. But then February 28, 2013, the Vatican announces his resignation, and the same day they give an interview. The El Observatorio Romano, their media outlet, gives an interview with the New York Times in which they admitted that he actually officially, secretly resigned in April of 2012 before the Roman Curia. And that's when our phones went off the hook, right?
Yeah.
And I told him at the conference, by the way, and this is true, I don't know if I ever told you this, CNN contacted me 3 times to try to get me to come on CNN to talk about how we knew that was going to happen. And I turned them down because I said I don't do fake news. They even were willing to, they have a satellite studio in Springfield. They said, we'll just come to Springfield. You can just drive over. I said, no, I'm not interested. And I didn't do it. But the revelation in the book is I believe that Pope Francis was not canonically elected. I believe some hanky-panky went on in the conclave. And in fact, I think that even has something to do with why he picked Francis of Assisi as his namesake. His real name's Bergoglio, as you know, because Francis of Assisi prophesied about the final pope. And he said he will not be canonically elected. Now that means that he's a placeholder for reasons that we can't quite figure out, but I believe he's going to either be removed from office or he's going to step down like Benedict did soon, and the guy that comes up to take his place is actually going to be the real Pope number 112 by election, Petrus Romanus. Now,
and that means?
The people that actually, some of the cardinals that voted for Pope Francis now want him to step down. They've published this. It's in the news. They want him to step down, and they want him to be replaced by the Secretary of State at the Vatican, whose name literally means Petrus Romanus, Peter the Roman, right? But the two major Catholic media outlets, news outlets, they recently interviewed the Pope's personal secretary. Archbishop Gonçalves. And they asked him, what do you make of the prophecy of the popes? He said, it gives us shivers. He admitted that he and Benedict and Pope Francis are all looking at the prophecy of the popes, and that it is concerning to them. They see it as a sign, right? Well, why now? Something that's never happened before. Some of the leaders in the Vatican convened a recent meeting on how to depose a heretical pope. They recently had this meeting, actually studying how to do it, right? If it comes to that. One of the major Catholic hosts of his own television program said recently that Pope Francis is the false prophet of the book of Revelation, and he's going to help give rise to the Antichrist. And he took a lot of heat for that.
Well, I would guess so.
Yeah. But there are those in the organization that are starting to talk. Well, Francis of Assisi's prophecy is interesting because he says a lot of the pastors will keep this under their hat. They won't talk about it, right? They won't say what they believe to be obvious. Well, little by little, they are starting to talk about it. So it's a whole chapter in the book.
This new book.
Wow. But I offer my reason.
That first book, why did you write such a controversial, possibly career-ruining book?
Yeah. Because nobody else was, and we knew that Pope Benedict was number 111. And our whole point was, whether you believe in the prophecy or not is kind of beside the point. Being a 900-year-old Catholic prophecy, a lot of people did put stock, a lot of popes put stock in it, even did things in their life to make themselves appear as a fulfillment of their line in the prophecy. They gave a lot of reverence to it. But for me, it was just, if for no other reason than the historicity of it, that you have a 900-year-old prophecy coming to a conclusion and nobody has written a thorough examination of it. So we chose to do it. But I'll tell you the bottom line. I'll tell you everything that motivates me is that we are fishers of men.
Yes.
And so we try to take the topics that the church runs away from, the things that they're scared to talk about, and that's what we put out there to talk about, because we don't want them going to the New Age. We don't want them winding up in dark corners of the internet because the church won't explain